recorded. If you don't want your presence to be known, by all means, drop off and get the recording afterwards. Just a quick clarification, actually, Preston, I won't be speaking at the FabCon. I'm just attending, but my boss, Mike Deal, also from Improving, it will be presenting on, I don't know the exact title, but it's all about leveraging frameworks and repeatability in ETL. So using a framework and scripting things so that dynamically new objects will appear in your ETL and transformations will take place. So, and I see the recording has been started. I'm going to just get the message out of my way there. Yeah, so this session, 3 ways to scrape web data with Microsoft Fabric, really, it actually was entitled End-to-End, and that became a little bit too much to speak all about Fabric and what its capabilities are, in addition to covering all the stuff in web scraping so that everyone really could get a solid foundation. I'm just going to click on the admit as they show up. Actually, I'm going to, next time that shows up, I'm going to get rid of that, silence that. But I changed the presentation just to focus on the 3 things. So in the abstract, I indicated we're going to be looking at a basic way of doing web scraping with Power BI. We're going to be looking at some advanced ways using the advanced editor and also using the by example capabilities. And then we'll be looking at some Python scripts. And so that's basically the 3 things. And so let's get started. I'm just going to click here. There we go. So these are the sponsors for the SQL Saturday. I know this is the presentation I was supposed to be giving in SQL Saturday, but am not. You've got it here, though. But when you do go, please say thank you to the sponsors. Without the sponsors, there would not be a SQL Saturday. I have attended many SQL Saturdays and organized the SQL Saturdays for Vancouver and Victoria in my area and helped out with Redmond as well as some of the other SQL Saturdays. They are amazing, but we do indeed need the sponsors to pay things like venue, to pay for AV equipment rental, et cetera, et cetera. We could not do this without the sponsors. Please say thank you and go and spend some time with them at the booth and find out what services they provide. Of note, hey, Improving is going to be there. I know that they help sponsor this user group and also are a sponsor of the SQL Saturday. So this is a little bit about me. Started working with SQL Server back in 1997. I've been a data platform MVP for 12 years up until COVID, and then my volunteer hours went to something else, and you'll see that shortly. Formerly a user group lead for SQL Server, Power BI, and SQL BI before that. And been to a few other conferences. My LinkedIn profile and my GitHub username. Feel free to grab the slides and demo files from that. I believe there'll probably potentially be a possibility of getting the slide deck as well from this user group. I'm not sure what that process is. We'll find out more about that. Also, a little bit updated headshot, because that first one you could tell that's got to be 15 or 20 years ago. That's not Scott Stover I've seen. This is more like me, and here's my little friend Annie. Annie is was in that picture a guide dog in training with the BC Alberta Guide Dogs, and why that's important you'll see very shortly. Oh, man, is principal consultant Improving and contact information again. So. Agenda, well, I covered a little bit about that. Here it is once again, the easy button. We're also going to have that little piece as well, item number 2, HTML and CSS selectors. That's really the magic sauce of making this happen. Actually, I'm going to quickly put on the people button. I see there's 12 people. If you can click on the button to raise hand, if you consider yourself a web dev, do you use CSS or HTML, or do you know those concepts? Have you taken a course in college? I see one person. Fantastic. Oh, two, three. Okay. So there's a few people that have taken web dev stuff. All right. And how many people are like, nope, I'm a data professional, don't need that stuff. Don't bother me with it. Like, can I see some show of hands? Oh, okay. Ed, okay. Preston. Oh, okay. Well, some of them might be a little shy as well, but I guess this is likely my audience if only three people are web devs. And I didn't catch the people's names, but if I make a mistake, which I will likely do because I do not consider myself a web dev, yet we're going to be talking about some web dev technologies and concepts. It's up to you to take yourself off mute and say, well, it's not quite that way. And I'm okay with that if as long as you're correcting me without scolding me. But please be gentle. I make mistakes. But it's important that this is the audience, that there's a reason why you're here because you're curious. How do I get that into my? I need to scrape some data from a website. How do I do that? Well, if you're a web dev, it's going to be a little easier. You'll perhaps understand what a CSS selector is, and you've gone through document object models, and you're able to navigate your way through a web page. We're going to take some time with that. As mentioned, sort of the advanced editor and add table using example will be in the second demo, and then the third one. So again, it's going to be PySpark in Jupyter Notebooks. So that'll be demo 3, and that will cover that'll wrap things up after that. So and my spot, there we go. So CSS selectors. Hey, but wait. What is the purpose? We can't just kind of go off and sort of do things. What is it that we're trying to accomplish when we're scraping the web? So we've got a use case. And I mentioned Danny, guide dog and training. So what I want to do is I want to go to the International Guide Dog Federation website, and I want to produce this. I want a map of all the associations around the globe, where they're located, so that I can find out where I can volunteer, find out where I can make donations, and just, out of curiosity, hey, like, what's this? What's this location here? This is, oh, no, okay, well, that's more than what I asked for. Okay, let's try that again. Oh, there we go. So this is Guide Dogs Western Australia. And then, of course, we've got Guide Dogs of Tasmania and Guide Dogs of South Australia. And yeah, so we have different locations, and we got the nice, contact information for them, the phone numbers, the websites. That's pretty useful. I've got another page here that it's not really too important that we look at, but we can certainly focus on North America as the audience is primarily going to be in North America at this point. And you'll say, hey, wait, I live in Georgia, and I know there's a guide dog organization that trains guide dogs. Very true. These actually represent the head offices of the organization. So what my next step is going to be is finding out where all the regional offices of those associations are and put that on the map as well. That's a little to do for me, but at this point, that's what I got for you. Actually, let's just jump over to number 2, because I've got a filter on North America still, and you can see that we can go and click through and go to the different association information and see the logos and stuff. So this is what we would want to produce. And so how would we go about doing that? Let's minimize this for a moment. And this is the that's why I got confused. This is a slide. Let's move forward in the slide deck. This is the website and what it looks like, and we can go there on the website in just a few minutes. But we're going to be grabbing the name, the location. You saw the information in the slide deck, or in the Power BI visuals. So let's move forward here. So we're going to do the easy button first, and we're going to be just web scraping with Power BI. So this isn't going to be news to a lot of people, but we open Power BI. We want to go and we want to get data from the web. And we're just going to use the basic web connector. The advanced one just allows you to break the URL down into pieces if you've got parameters and stuff that you're pumping in there. And so actually, I'm just going to quickly go back to the website here. And I'm going to go to, let's move this over here for a moment. I'm just going to go to this site here. So we'll navigate to it. So we're going to go to Find Providers. And it's going to say, oh, okay, we've got Asia, Europe. So we're going to go to Europe here. And so this is, we're just going to grab the, oh, no, actually, we're going to go to North America. Sorry about that. It's like I have a short attention span here. Let's grab North America instead. And let's jump back into Power BI. There we go, and paste the URL. And click OK. And it's going to open up a dialog window here. We're going to maximize this. And of course, you got the table view and the web view. A lot of the time I'll use the table view, but it's interesting to see just what the web view is all about. It just gives you, hey, this is what the website looks like. And you go, yep, that's the one. And you can go, okay, this is what I expect to see, but let's go to the table view and then navigate on the left to see which one this is. Well, this looks like it's cookie information. Okay, well, I'm not curious about that. Well, I'm a little peckish, but maybe I'll have a cookie later. This stuff, functional performance, analytics, advertisements, other, this is not what we're looking for. I'm suspecting, aha, table number 2 is where the money is. So if I click here, the load shows up and I could load that. You can notice also we're going to be using this add table using examples a little later. And then the other option is also transform the data. You can see here, we've got this, the name of the organization. This is the location. I'm not really sure why it has country as the prefix of all of the countries. I mean, not very helpful, but it is what it is. We've got the URL, and let's just actually go back to, let's actually click on the web view for a moment. So we have country, country, country. Oh, I see. So it could be it's taking this little title and prefixing it onto the country name. And then we've got, okay, the website, and then we've got the more information. All right, so interestingly enough, that more information is a URL, but it's not exposing the URL to us. So this easy button isn't very complex. It's just doing the basics. So it hasn't done the best job of helping us to expose that URL, but we'll get to that. So we're just going to transform the data, and it's going to pull it open. There's pending changes in the query that haven't been applied. Aha, so it's opened the Power Query window in my other text browser, or my other window. Let's pop that open, and it's called it Table 2. We can rename that to North America. And away we go. So again, we probably don't need these columns here. And so what we can do, I mean, you can see this step is a change data type step. It's just defining the data types for the columns. So we're just going to delete that for a moment. And then you can see we also have the extract table from HTML. That's one of the steps. And then the previous step is simply the, hey, this is the website. This is the web.browser contents, that function that's pulling the data from the website. So we can right click over here and look at the advanced editor. We're going to do that in another step. But at this point, let's just acknowledge that it's not quite done yet. Like we need to do some steps. So maybe, for instance, we say, well, we don't, this column really don't need, this website we don't need, this more information we don't need. It doesn't provide anything. So we're just going to delete that, remove columns, and that'll create a step. And then maybe we'll go here and we'll say transform. And what we want to do is we want to extract text after a delimiter. And in this case, we could say after the delimiter of country. And there we go. So that's fixed. We've got the country name, we've got a URL, and we've got the name of the Guide Dog Association. So that's basically what we've accomplished, but it's not quite what we wanted. We wanted that more information button. Maybe we wanted to do some other things as well. We're just going to park that though and say we got some learning to do. We're going to have to figure out what the CSS selector stuff's all about. And so let's go back here and let's get started with our journey. Cascading style sheets is, of course, what CSS stands for. We're just going to, well, before we jump into it, it's like, why would they use, like, the audience of Power BI isn't that web dev. But what the product team did is they said, well, this is a common way to scrape websites. Python libraries have existed for a while, and they use CSS selectors to indicate, not to select stuff to format something for a web page, but to select it so that they can pull data. And they've been doing this for a while. So when the product team, when they developed this feature, they used what made most sense. Unfortunately, most database professionals don't have this exposure to CSS selectors. So hence, when the product feature was shipped, there were a lot of people that struggled and didn't quite understand how to do it. And there unfortunately wasn't a lot of guidance or step-by-step. So it would have been great to have a web dev just say, hey, this is what a CSS selector is, and this is how you'd leverage it. But that didn't happen, unfortunately. So here I am today. Hopefully this can unpack that for you. So CSS, cascading style sheets, are you, I'm just gonna, oh, that didn't work either. Okay. It can be used with these different languages, HTML, XML, SVG, math, HTML, etc. And I'm going to actually, these slides are more so for backup in case you want to look at the information later. So it's sort of a summary. We're going to actually look at some of this stuff with a sample page. So I'm just going to click through this. We're going to talk about the ID tags and the class tags or elements. I should say I'm using the terminology incorrectly. The tags are what's used for elements in HTML that have the greater than less than sign, and things between those tags will be affected by what it is. For instance, bold in those tags, start and stop a bold, will bold anything that's between the two tags. So H3 is simply the third level of a header. It is a tag. It is a attribute. Sorry, it's not an attribute. It's a tag or an element. And then you also have IDs and classes. And when you see it an ID and you want to reference with a CSS selector, you'll use the hash sign. And when you reference class, you'll use the dot. And we'll see that again in a little bit more. Again, this is, you can reference this for a later. There's also a reference in Wikipedia, as well as W3 Schools, I think is what it's called. And you'll be able to get a peek at that later. But let's jump into the lesson right at the moment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code for this. And what you'll see is we have let's open the folder first. And hold on. Okay. Oh, no, let's go back to. Oh, hold on here a second. Who moved my cheese? All right. recent. Let's go here. Aha. Okay. So many of you said you're not web devs, but I suspect you understand what the tags are. This is your HTML tag, and anything between this open tag and this closed tag, you can see the slash will indicate that this is a part of this tag. And you can see here we've got the header tag, the head tag, and here's the end of that head tag, and again the title. So by using these tags, we can give indication of what we would want to attract with this selector. So in this region here, we actually set up the style. And in this case, we've said region 2, which we can see down here. Region 2 is something that we want to select. So class region 2, it's got a period and then a comma and H2. So we want to highlight in light blue region 2 and H1. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this little extension it's called Go Live. And this actually went live with something I wasn't anticipating. Hold on, let me just do that again. 550. I need to, interesting, hold on. That's the first time this is disposing of that. Let's try that again. It almost seems like it's doing it on this one instead of the other one. Huh. Let's try this one more time here. Almost thinking, let's close this one. There we go. And let's try go live one more time. Okay, this is not cooperating. Let me do this. This is in community. Okay, I'm just going to open this instead in the file location. That I've never had this happen before. Open folder. There we go. Let's go into community, SQL Saturday. Sorry, it was SQL Bits, wasn't it? SQL Bits. Nope. I'm going to cancel this one more time. Here we go. This is file, open recent. This is SQL Bits web scraping. Okay, right. Okay. Let's try this one last time. Community, SQL Bits, web scraping with Fabric. There we go. Select folder. And just make sure. Okay, it's these two. So we're going to open this one first. And we're going to now click on Go Live. There's what we're looking for. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I guess it's really important that you use the folder, not just simply open the file. That's not going to necessarily choose the one you want. Makes sense. Okay. So what we've once again said is we want to style with CSS selectors these things. Now, right now, we're just using the style to show you what it would do. But if we said, use the CSS selector to grab data, we could do the same and grab the data. For instance, if we wanted to grab, for instance, the span, we could do span, because span is a tag and you don't prefix it with anything. So now what you're going to do is Control S, and you can see these are spans tags. This text within region 1, you can see there's the span tags. If I wanted to find all the LIs, I could say, okay, let's grab the LIs and let's Control S, and you can see, okay, there are all the LIs. If I just wanted the LIs in region 1, and I'd say, okay, region 1 is a class, so I know I need to put in front of that a dot region 1, and it's case sensitive, I believe. And then I do LI. That'll mean an LI following region 1. Let's do that. Control S. And we can see here it's done that. It changes to a 2. And I can Control S, and it'll give me the region 2 LIs. I could also do, so this is using the class, and we use a period whenever there's a class. But you can also, do we have any here? An ID. I don't think there's any ideas on this one. It's probably on the next one. So let's go to the second example now. And this one is a little different. And I'm going to stop and start this. There we go. So this one's a little different. I've used orange. And in this case here, we've got a few things. You can see I've got a div set1. And I'm just going to get rid of these little notifications here. And it looks like there's ID set1. And it looks like if you follow the black line, it goes all the way down to a short paragraph. So it goes all the way down to here. So this ID, so a class can be used throughout many places within a document. An ID can only be used in one place. So for most web developers, they're not that beneficial to use. You should use classes, not IDs. But if we simply want to say, but we want an area where the data is that we want, we really want to isolate it, it's really helpful to use the IDs, actually. So I tend to look for those, and generally those are a great place to start if it's for for a table that you want to grab data from. So you can see here, in this first table, we've got a table body, we've got a table row, and these are 4 rows that have the table TH for table header and TD for table data. So we can do things with our selectors to identify what we want. So you can see here, div set1, it's grabbed the table. In div set1, it's grabbed the table header. In div set2, it's done the table data. So in the first one, we said, well, give us the table, and then in the second and third, we've just said, give us the table header versus the table data. So that you can see is what's been selected, and it's given us a background of orange. So once again, you separate the IDs from the tag with a pound sign or a number sign. And for a class, if set1 was a class, it would be div dot set1, and that's how it's sort of set up to work. So given that little bit of information, you can see this is pretty basic HTML. It's not really complex. There's not really long class names. If you have a product, like for instance, WordPress is one of the popular ways to host a website these days. If you use a product like Elementor that helps you design it in a very modern looking way, it's going to create all these classes with which you can apply, dress up to, or dress up the different classes. So they've got lots of different class names that have been created in multiple places. So it can get very noisy and busy and hard to sort of decipher where things are at. So what we're going to do is, and in fact, the Guide Dogs Association website is actually a website that uses WordPress and Elementor. So you'll actually see that. So we've used these basic files. Now let's use something a little bit more complex and have a look within the website. I'm going to maximize this. And if you want to see and find, hey, what are the selectors I need to find for like America's Vet Dogs? Like you can just right click and you can say inspect, and it'll open up the visual tools and it'll put you right there. And as you hover over things over here, you'll see on the left, it says h3.title. So h3 is your tag and your .title is your class. Some of the other things that you see down below, now if I move this, you can see, this h3 .title, above it in the hierarchy is li, so a list item. You can see that the ul on this line here has got an ID list of providers. And so it's ul pound for list of providers. And it goes on with the rest of the class information as well. You can see there's a period right here that indicates, well, from here on, this is the class. So this is sort of the hierarchy of where things are, or this is where things are in the hierarchy for this America's Vet Dogs. If you want, you can also right click and copy the selector. And if we open up Notepad, for instance, let's open Notepad. And we paste that in, and I can move that over. So you can see here, well, do you think, well, this is the full selector? Well, you don't really need to identify this item here by a full selector. This is unique enough that it's going to get you just this item that you want to get. So again, the pound for the class, list of providers, within the direct child of list of providers here is an li, and we're saying we want the first child, and within that first child we want h3, which is the header tag. So that uniquely brings us to this place in the document and would either allow us to change the color or something if you're using CSS to decorate, but in our case, it would be used to pull data from that website and grab that one data element. Okay, so I hope that helps you understand, how we're going to construct the selectors, and that. Again, we'll make sure we knock it into your head. The pound references an ID, and you can only use an ID once in a web page. A class is used multiple times in a web page, and when you reference it, you use a period. But you also have these little greater than symbols. And so between your selector elements, you can indicate, well, if you use this, it indicates that this item here is a direct descendant of this item here. And this item here is a direct descendant of this item here. I hope that makes sense. If you do not have the greater than sign and there's simply just a space, it means, like if there weren't a greater than sign here, it would mean that there is an li, or if for instance, you just took this out here and you said, give me a list, it really says, give me the list of providers, but give me the H3 where H3 is within the list of providers, and then it would grab all these H3s for all these listed items. UL is unordered list and LI is list item. So let's take that for a moment and say, okay, let's go back to our advanced our advanced editor and see what we can do here. So I'm going to minimize that now. And we're going to go and look at Power BI one more time. Okay, and this is the Power Query Editor. And so what we're going to do this time is we're going to go and grab the same web page, but we're going to do something different this time. It's still in a concept, in a sense, it's going to be using the easy button. We're not breaking any, we're not leveraging any of that knowledge we just learned. We're just going to be using one more thing within Power BI to make it happen. So again, we're going to, I think it's from home, we're going to say new source, and we're going to say web. And I think, no, that's not what we want. Let's just go back over here for a moment. This URL, copy that, and paste it here. And you might have recalled that I said, hey, we really want to get that more information item. So, okay, we'll give it a few moments. Please enter a value. I'm pretty sure I did. Okay. Fantastic. We're going to make this big again. And we recall it was table 2 that we wanted. And you recall, it's not quite doing what we need, right? We want that more information. We want the URL behind that more information item. So let's click on the add table, using examples. Actually, gosh, before I do that, I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to make this a little smaller. Okay. Okay. I am going to just go and go here one more time. And we just want to quickly, look at this and hover over this. As I hover over this, you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, it says https www.igdf for International Guide Dog Federation.org.uk/providers/America's Vet Dogs. So you can see America Vet Dogs down there, and that's what I want. America's-Vet Dogs is what I want to search on. And if I go down here, it's BC-Alberta Guide Dogs. So I need to remember 2 of those items that I actually want to pull. So what I'm going to do now is let's go back to Power BI. And that's not the Power BI I want to go to. Aha, there we go. So let's go back here, add table using example this time. And we'll just move this over here. And the first column, okay, well, that's going to be provider. And we actually have to, well, we can do country. And then we want to do URL. And we want to do more info. More info URL. Okay. So again, it didn't give us this in the past, but let's see how this works. So I'm going to do America's Vet Dogs. And then down here, I want BC Alberta Guide Dogs. And I can see it here, and then I can see, oh, look at that. It says, hey, wait, I think I know what you're trying to do here. You want to get a list of all these? Of course I do. So now we just go over to country, and we say, okay, the first one is United States. Okay, if I could type today, the United States, and it's actually this one. This is actually something else. This is another element somewhere else in the web page. This isn't within the table. How do I know that? I just do, but we do want this country, United States. And if I go down to here, oh, it's figured out, oh, this is in the same, this column is in the same table as this. Let's make the same assumption we did over here. What we want to do is we want to say, okay, so this is going to be a America's Vet Dogs is going to be guidedogsofamerica.org. There's a good chance that's what it is. Guidedogsofamerica.org. And then the more information URL, you may remember it was an IGDF website that had America's, where did it go? It was this one here. No, it was America Vet Dogs. This is the one that we had. And let's go down to this one. And as soon as we type in something close to relevant, it's going to say, oh, you mean BC Alberta Guide Dogs. This is the one. And it's going to go, oh, I'm hoping it's going to go. Okay, well, let's do this. Let's go over here and say BC, and this one is BC Alberta Guide Dogs here. And then, so this is the IGDF. And, oh, okay, there we go. And if I go down here, I don't know what the Canadian Guide Dog for the Blind is, but you'll notice it's helping me out here a little bit. So this one is guidedogsofamerica.org. This one is bcalbertaguidedogs.com. This one is, and which one are we here? This is Canadian Guide Dogs. Well, I could simply swap out really quickly here. This is Canadian, this one is guidedogs.ca. Okay, guidedogs.ca. So let's minimize this again. Guidedogs.ca. There we go. And if I'd enter, oh, this is interesting. All right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go like this and delete. I'm going to do it one more time. I'm not sure why jumping around caused a problem there, but we've got the more info link. Now we're just trying to hit back and hit that one. So let's just try this one more time. America's Vet Dogs. Oh, right. This is. And maybe that was the problem. Maybe I had the wrong one. Vetdogs.org. Ah, there we go. Okay, so I figured it out. And so there we go. We've got our 4 columns. We click on OK, and then it goes and pumps that into, there we go. And it created something called Table 5 for us under custom tables. So, okay. So by using this add table using example, if we have a good reference point, like we can pull up the web page and have a peek at it and look at the code underneath, we can identify, oh, okay, this is indeed what we were wanting to get. Click on OK. And there we are. We've got the data we want. Now, but let's have a look at what it's done for us. If we take this table 5 that it created for us, and we can go to the advanced editor. Now, a lot of people that use Power BI might not be very familiar with Power Query, and Power Query is the UI on top of the functional language M, and M is the Power Query engine, if you will. And so M is a functional language, and basically it starts with this let for the code it generates, and it's got this list of items or a list of functions, and this is the label of that of this function. So all the results of this go into this, and then it's referenced on the next line. So this is now the label that's going to be referenced on the next line. So you can see here, change type references, extracted table from HTML. So the one step, the the following step always references back to the step for it when code is generated in Power Query. And at the end, it says in, and then identifies the last row. So that's in essence what's taking place. And you'll notice after each of the line items, there's a comma. But this is really what's taking place. So we've got our source. It says the website we're going to. We're using a function called HTML table. And that function is really the power of what we're doing here. So what I like to do, though, is I like to go like this and hit enter and take this and say, okay, these are my items that I want. And so provider, and if I go here, and I go, hold on. There we go. All right. So we have four columns, and I'm just actually going to click done for a moment to confirm that these are the column names. Oh yeah, it does have column 1, more info URL, country, and provider. So let's just go back really quick. Advanced editor. And so provider, country, more info URL, and then column 1. And so here you can see that, okay, it's used the title class, it's a class because that's a period, to grab this column. For the country, it used the country class, which makes sense, nice and short and sweet. For the more info URL, it noticed that there was an apply class, and within the apply class, it wants to grab the first child. So the nth child 1 is the first child. You can put a 2 in here if you wanted the second items. And then to the last child. And then it says each attributes href, question mark. So that's a little bit tricky to digest, but that is actually what we're looking for. This is the attribute, the href is an attribute class. So if we look at the code in the website, we'll see that indeed there's an href class, and you'll actually see it's in the this here indicates that it's an a tag. And an a tag simply references that it's an href attribute. So it's a little tricky, but yeah, you remember period is for classes, pound is for IDs. The colon is for a pseudo class, and a pseudo class is used to do things like the nth child or the first child or the last child. You can replace this with first and the last child as well. And you'll notice too, column 1, it says is strong. It's a little tricky to identify, hey, how is it that going to be the one that it chooses? Power Query is able to determine that is based on the button that we used. It was able to determine what the selector is. So the other important thing is, well, hey, we've identified the columns, but most importantly, what represents the row? And if we look, it says, okay, there's a class called Elementor Widget Shortcut, and under that, there's a bunch of LIs. This is basically saying, this is the data we want to grab, and within that row, these are the columns that we want above. So this is how it constructs it. So if you know you've got something else you want to grab, you can absolutely go like this, and you can give the column a name, another column, and you can specify what the selector is, and it'll grab it as well. And you can just pop in the selector. So let's go back to the website for just a moment and see if there's something we can grab there. And just a quick time check. We're at the 50-minute mark. I'm just going to quickly go back here. and we can see country, we can see website, we can see more information. We can also see when you hover over, when we click on this, I'll re-inspect this, it'll jump to that more information. And you'll notice here more information about America Vet Dogs. So if we looked at this and said, oh, Arial label, more information, more. If we simply said, apply and use the apply class, I think this will show up. So why don't we give that a try in our code for a moment before we move on? Because hey, we're here. What if we just did apply here? And this is me just trying something without, oh, did I forget something? It's expected a comma. I thought I had a, oh, I see. Closed it too early. There we go. I think that's probably what we're looking for. Oh, phew. Okay, it's going to grab the more info. Okay, so if we wanted to grab the other one, I am not sure. It's not a class. This is a, this might be the, we might be able to put this in, not sure. Okay. At this point, I'm probably, if we do attribute, not sure whether this is the right format. Again, I'm not a web developer at this point. I'm probably shouldn't jump into a runoff script, but I'm gonna do it just for kicks and grins. Now, okay, it didn't work. I'll need to figure out how to do that one. That one's I think maybe it's attributes. Let me just try this. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I think this is part of an attribute, so I might need to do that, but to format it this way. But yeah, I'll probably have to change this up. Anyways, it gets a little dicey once you start working with the attributes or the A tags. So we're just going to put that one aside. I'm going to jump on to how you would do this with a Python script. So let's minimize this and head over to Fabric for a moment. So I've got here in Fabric, I've got a workspace called International Guide Dog Federation. I put a nice logo up there. I've done some stuff with some data flows Gen 2. And what I did also is I created a notebook. And so these are Jupyter notebooks, and in Jupyter notebooks, you do SQL scripts, you can do Scala scripts, you can do R, you can do Python, you can do PySpark. So Python itself with sort of the native Python, I guess is what you'd say, as opposed to PySpark, Python in Spark, is a new recent addition. So this here is this web scraping here. So this is a notebook, and so in a notebook, you have got the opportunity for things called cells. And so this is a markup cell, and I've defined things like, okay, a title, and I can click over here and edit it. And here's the markup code used to generate this. And so I've defined some URLs you can jump to and some images. So for this web scraping, I'm not a Python guy. Like I've just recently got into Python. I watched this video to get a sense of how to do this in Python, do the web scraping. So the example that follows comes a lot from this video. So it talked about we're going to import this HTTPX library, and we're going to import the selector lax as well. Now, to do this, we have to do something different. We've got these things called environments, and this one is using an environment that is we can define what Spark versions being used. But what you can also do is say, I want these libraries loaded in my environment. So I'm going to click on this and look at my environment settings. And You can see a little bit about the environment that's set up and the libraries as well. Let me cancel this because the UI has actually changed since I set this up a long time ago. Actually, hold on. How do we do that again? So Python Spark. This is where you would choose what type of Spark notebook you would use. We're using Python, obviously. Here's where you can use T-SQL or Python without a Spark cluster that it's backed by. We want to look over here, and that's not where we do it anymore either. They moved it on me. Okay. We'll see in a few minutes where the environmental variables, or not environmental variables, libraries are set in the environment. Interestingly, too, you can also back up your environment and save it to a YAML file so you can export it and re-import it in something else. But we'll just look at, so this was a markup cell above. This cell here is a code cell, and we can run this code cell. We can run all of the code cells. So this cell and all below runs, or you can run selected code within the cell. You can see here, I am not connected to the environment. So if I click on this, it's going to connect. If I don't, and I click on run the cell, the first thing it's going to do is connect. It'll spin up an environment that's defined by our environment up here. And then it's going to run the code. And so it's actually running the code right now. And what it's doing is it's saying, okay, well, this is the URL. This is the header. This is telling what browser we are using. And then we're going to capture the response of this HTTPX GET, which includes the URL and the header, in a response variable. So it's taking a few moments. When that's done, we'll be able to see either success or failure. And okay. Sometimes this takes a few moments. Sometimes it's almost instantaneous. There we go, completed. So because this is run, and we go and run this cell, it's saying, well, print the response .status code. So in HTML, it's common for 200 to mean success, whereas a 404 would be page not found. And you can see here I added some notes in markup language, and again, you can see that is what it took to write this down here, the pound sign, to make it a type 1 header, if you will, top level header. So we've run this. Now we're saying, okay, well, let's print this and we'll see how beautiful it looks. This is all the HTML that it collected from that. And response is hidden. I'll show the output. And you can see, oh, that's so beautiful. Not very readable, certainly not what we want. We want to get the details of that website. So let's go back here, and we can do this, and we can say, well, hide the output. And then we can say, okay, so from there, what we want is we'll say, we're going to use the HTML parser function that we've imported, and we're going to say response.text. And then we're going to print it, and we're going to say we want just the first title, and we want it as text. So you can see I've run this already, and it says guide dog providers in North America, International Guide Dog Federation. Again, if you run it, it'll refresh it. And then again, we can do this, and it'll show, okay, well, these are the nodes, the LI nodes. It's not showing us what's in it, that I haven't provided the code to do that. But then I take it down and I say, okay, well, let's just print the country, and it's printing the country. And then let's print, this time we want to have the title, the country, the website, the div apply A, and let's just see what that looks like. And there you go. So more info, href, America's vet dogs. And so it's got the it's got all the information there that we've pulled out when we've said these items here. All right. I've also added some try-catch functionality that I grabbed from that website above. Why did I do that? In the case that one of the elements is empty, whether a country or a website or more information, this code, if you compare the code of the two, you'll notice the difference. I'm going to hide the output for a moment, and you can see, okay, there's the try-catch or the try-except piece there that's been added. So if you want to learn more about that, by all means, go have a look at that video. I think that's really where the value is. And with that, of course, you can also then drop this to a CSV. You can have this workbook called by perhaps a data factory pipeline, which would then drop it into, I'm sorry, I'm losing, excuse me. Excuse me, drop it into the OneLake and then have a Power BI report like I have that would use that data. You have a semantic model that sits on top of that OneLake reference, and then your Power BI report connects to that semantic model or data set, as they used to be called. So that's how you would do it with Python. Let's actually just take a look really quickly. Edit. Where's that? View. Not here. No. Is this the settings? No, that's the settings of it all. Let's go to edit. Okay. Oh, web scraping. Ah, here we go. Oh, excuse me. Here we go. Here's where our libraries are. So I was choosing the default as opposed to the actual environment. So they have built-in libraries within Python that Microsoft has said, oh, well, these are the libraries most people would want and need. And then you've got the libraries that are the custom libraries that you reference, or sorry, the public libraries are the ones that you can go and you specify the source, and you can say, I want this library, and you can even go to as far as saying, I want this particular version of that library. I'm not sure why I have 0.26.0. It could be that there's been some major releases since I grabbed the HTTPX. I'm not actually sure what drove me to choose this particular version. Select your lax as well. And you can, excuse me. You can add from PyPL. You can add from Conda as well, which is just another place where you can grab libraries from. So there are two library repositories. You can also add from YAML, so you can export this to YAML, and that way you can use it in other environments or other Fabric capacities, and you'll have this file available for you to add it so that you don't have to go and select it manually. You can say add from YAML in another instance. And so, yeah, that's how you add libraries to your environment. And you can see as well, if I go back here, we have a web scraping environment as well. So I believe here you can probably say something like export. No, perhaps you can't. Maybe you go to settings. Okay, that's not where it doesn't allow you to do that. Okay, so you have to do it within your notebook, I guess, to access the environment to export things. So I'm looking at the time. My clock says we've been online for an hour. So I suspect I've got, oh, it looks like we got 18 minutes at the top of the hour. I think that's what I've got So I am going to jump back to the slides at this point, and we're going to talk about a few other things. Okay. These are the backup slides, just in case things didn't work. Again, the add-in for this, the extension that allows you to use that, I believe is called Live Server, and there'll be a link on there. We did sort of jump through some of this. I'm just going to pop through here. These are some of the other examples that I've also looked at in the past. I think this is one of the slides that I wanted to talk about briefly. Data transformation options for Fabric. You've got data flows Gen 2, which is just your Power Query, if you will, running in your Fabric or your Power BI instance. So you can have multiple Power Query components that work together to generate a data set, and that you can drop to a OneLake, for instance. So instead of having a Power BI report, it exists on its own within your capacity. You also have Data Factory pipelines. Azure Data Factory ADF brought into Fabric doesn't have all the capabilities that Azure Data Factory had, but it has many of them. Some of the things, for instance, the web capabilities don't exist yet, or they may have recently been added, and I'm trying to get that squared away as to whether we can do web scraping with Data Factory pipelines in Fabric. But at that time that I created this presentation, you couldn't. So we demonstrated PySpark notebooks. And of course, notebooks, you can use SQL or Scala or Python, or even PySpark and Python as well. But then you can also develop solutions in Power BI and send them up to the service. So there's a few different ways you could potentially do ETL or data transformations within Fabric, and we've simply crossed the Data Factory out for that purpose. Another issue that you may run into is this is the document that states, and there's the URL if you're interested later on. It's this still does exist in the document. I'm just not sure whether they've just recently resolved this, but it says doesn't currently support web API and web page connectors and data pipelines. Again, these are just to support what I've shown you. Web scraping with data flows Gen 2. This is a little tricky. In Power BI, I created some functions that made it so it would go to the page with all the countries listed or the continents listed, and it would go for each continent, it would go and it would do the same set of steps, and it would work through, and it would grab and scrape all of the countries on all the continents and put it into a file. When I attempted to do that in Data Flows Gen 2, it came up with this little exclamation mark when I did this. And I'm like, oh, that's unfortunate. It says, dynamic data sources are not supported. So using functions that you created in Power BI and copy and pasting the Power BI, the Power Query code into Fabric is not always going to work if it leverages functions. They have done some work. I'm not sure where they're at with it, but hopefully soon you won't see that get in your way. What you'll also need is an on-premise data gateway. And so the on-premise data gateway is an installer that makes it so that you can, I'm just going to quickly do this, makes it so that you can expose data that's on-prem into Fabric. And you might say, well, we're not doing that. Well, we have to leverage our browser or our web connection somewhere. And so this is what you need to do, is you need to set up your on-premise data gateway. And when you do your web scraping, it's actually using the browser on your gateway. So it's on my personal machine, because this machine's running the on-premise data gateway right now. So how do you get that? You go to, well, actually, you will see this. You can say do the standard mode versus the personal mode. Personal mode will only give you the capability of doing one type of data. It will only, here we go, on premise. Here's the personal mode, so it only does Power BI, where the regular gateway will do Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're installing the gateway, you might want to consider what else do you plan on doing with it and grab the appropriate gateway in order to act as that gateway for your web scraping. So I'm just going to go back one more time here. Let's jump back to the slide deck and close this. And so, 1 second. Excuse me. So here we've got the CSS Selector Ultimate Guide by Kyle Cook. Excuse me, and it's this is the blog post, and then he also has a 20-minute video on YouTube as well. He also has a CSS Selector cheat sheet that's pretty handy, and as well, w3schools.com also has some tutorials, references, and gives you an opportunity to try. If you're hoping to find, like, hey, you're on a website and you want to find a particular item and have it give you the selector gadget is a tool that does that. It's a little older. It's like 10 or 12 years old, but it doesn't recognize all websites. And I'm not a web guy, so I'm not sure exactly why, but so most people won't use that these days. But you can also right-click on an item, click on Expect in your browser, like I demonstrated, and then you'll be able to right-click an element in that hierarchy that we did before, and you can copy the CSS selector. So once again, that's just going back here, and for instance, you know, if you wanted to find out what the CSS selector for this is, you could say copy selector, and then you'll have a selector. So you don't necessarily need selector gadget, I should say, to do that for you. Let me just go one more. Excuse me. So I think we've covered it. We showed you a basic demo using the easy button, basically. We talked a little bit about HTML, CSS selectors. We looked at the advanced editor and Power Query, used the add table using an example, and we used some Python's PySpark Jupyter notebooks as well. So yeah, that's about it. We did have a fundraiser at SQLBits, and you might go, oh, we didn't do so well. We actually ended up raising £4,000 for Guide Dogs. SQLBits actually, if you filled out an evaluation form for the presentation, they gave some money away for everyone who filled out a form. So we did quite well in supporting the Guide Dogs. And once again, if you do go, please go and visit the booths. Any questions?
That's fantastic, Scott. Thanks for the demonstration there, and also thanks for the work with the Guide Dogs. That's an important.
I just realized my speaker just shut down.
Hello. I can hear you. Yeah, can you hear us? Okay.
Sorry, yeah, I just realized my speaker turned off. I hope you guys weren't chatting with me at any point during the presentation.
No, I didn't hear any. No, everything looked like it was good to go. Looks like there is a question in the chat, though. Okay. Emmanuel asks, have you measured if scraping large tables impacts the capacity? So what would be the recommendations for starting out with like an F2 or F4 if you're dealing with really large scrapable tables?
Yeah, you know, I haven't. And, you know, the other thing that so there's different Python libraries is where we'll start off with this. And different website technologies will do things differently. There's something called lazy load, and you'll probably recognize it and recall maybe going to a website before, and you can see the scroll bar is very short, so there's not much there. But as soon as you scroll down to the bottom of the page, it loads another section of the page. And so that's called lazy load. So you can actually get, and I don't know the library names in Python, but I'm sure you could Google it, Python library for lazy load web scraping or something like that. And it will be able to go do and step you through that. But I'm not sure how those libraries would work, and you'd need to get some videos. So I really haven't loaded large websites. It did take quite a bit when I ran the script using the function, and it crawled the entire website. That was doing it on desktop, and it did take a few minutes. The thing is, something like this is, I don't see it being something that you necessarily need to have fast. It, well, I guess my question for that individual, and I can check the chat window here, is like, oh, and I can stop sharing as well. I think that's probably also helpful. End slideshow and stop sharing. The you generally would want to use something like an API call, or using a connector that connects to a relational data engine, and it'll do it efficiently. Something like this in Python libraries. I haven't really examined the different performances of the libraries, but if it's more than a few pages, you might also ask yourself, is there a better way to do it? Like, should you reach out to the supplier of the data and say, hey, we'd be interested in getting your data. Is there any possibility we can get you to give us an API access, for instance, so that it's a little bit more web friendly? The other thing to point out too is a lot of the websites, if you read the fine print, are like, hey, you can't consume our website apart from our website. You can't scrape it, is what they'll say. I'm sure if I reached out to International Guide Dog Federation and told them what I was doing, they probably wouldn't get upset with me, because my motivation is to help get them volunteers and money. So, but other companies might not be happy with you for scraping their data in order to, line your pockets, or provide some service or opportunity that they're not getting rewarded for. So yeah, I haven't really looked at performance though.
Good answer.
Is there any maybe I'll jump into the chat here. Okay. But yeah, I mean, looks like Tuar is Emmanuel is typing. Okay. Well, if there's any other question, or if you want to ask a question, I think by all means come off mute, and love to chat. Were there any web people as well that are like, Scott, you're a little wrong in this? I'd love feedback on what I got wrong, or what is slightly incorrect. If you want to come off mute and say, this is how it's done. I'm more than open to feedback and ideas. Okay. No one at this point? Okay.
All right. Well, again, Scott, thank you so much for sharing the knowledge. This was really well done, and looking forward to playing with this.
All right. All right. Well, reach out if on LinkedIn if you have any questions. If I will give me till Thursday, and I'll get the items in a fresh GitHub repository, so that you can pull them out and start playing.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Right.
Well,
okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for jumping in and joining for the user group this month. And next month, we should be back to in person. Just keep an eye on meetup.com for the updates and next session and presentation info. Other than that, anybody else have any questions, comments before we break? All right. Well, everybody have a fantastic evening, and we will chat soon.
All
Take
right.
care, y'all. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.